Welcome, inspired friends. This is a very special day. It's our very first interview on the Inspired channel here on YouTube, and we have a fantastic special guest today. I'm really excited. Welcome, Nick Breau. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
My pleasure. This is going to be fun.
Well, Nick, I wanted to find the right introduction, and I'm going to jump right in with the most important fact for most of our viewers and listeners today is Nick is a 9-time Abraham-Hicks hot seater. It's probably a record. I don't know if you're in the Guinness World Book of Records, but
I've got a little bit of I know some people who've been, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. But I've got a good group of frequent hot seaters I can connect you with if you want.
that's really exciting. And Nick is also a law of attraction coach, a breakthrough specialist, a TED Talk speaker. And I had the pleasure to talk to Nick a few days ago, and I'd say most of all, Nick's a pretty happy guy, pretty balanced guy, and we're really excited to have him today. And Nick, before we jump into the conversation, I would like to tell everybody that law of attraction brought us together today, which I think is a great example of how it works. So about 2 weeks ago, I posted on our YouTube community thing that I would love to do an interview with an Abraham-Hicks hot seater, and a few people responded that had been in the hot seat, and then kind of it didn't really happen. The communication didn't really go onwards, and I just decided to leave it to the universe and not really put in any extensive action anymore. It's going to happen. And so a couple of days ago, my wife Christine had intuition to set up an Instagram account for our YouTube channel. And I think you were one of the first followers of our Instagram account. And Christine said, well, look, here's a guy, Nick Breau, and he's a 9-time Abraham-Hicks hot seater. Why don't you message him? And that's how this all got, started and the ball got rolling. And I think it's a really beautiful example of how the law of attraction works. And you have an intention, you focus, and then you kind of get out of the way sometimes. That's sometimes the most important thing.
And then you follow that impulse.
Exactly. So welcome, Nick Breau. Thanks again for being here. And I think what would be really interesting to know is how did you get started on the law of attraction journey, and how did you find Abraham-Hicks?
Yeah, it's a bit of a long story, and it dates back to maybe like 15 years ago.
Oh, we have time.
I essentially studied this stuff on and off. I was doing Reiki and all these modalities. And the moment for me that really sticks out was, in my background is tech. So I spent 10 years in tech before really diving into this world full time. The last tech company was acquired. I played a key role in for over $300 million. That gave me some financial freedom to step away from that world and do this. And so I remember back in my tech days, maybe about a year, 8 months before the acquisition, sitting in my cubicle, looking around the office, and noticing that most people weren't truly happy. Most people weren't depressed, but most people seemed to be living life in more of a state of contentment. And so I started to really kind of reflect on my life and the fact that I only have, 3 weeks vacation every year, and all my money is going to pay my bills. And that essentially I'm supposed to sit here and do this for the next 40 years of my life until I retire. So that really got me questioning life. And I started to develop what I call this deep down feeling that life is supposed to be easier than this, that this isn't what life is really supposed to be about. And I think a lot of people feel that feeling. And I was able to suppress it for a little while, but it grew. And then I couldn't ignore it anymore. And that's when I really dove in, not just to like Abraham-Hicks and the teachings, but I really started to apply it. Because what I noticed is for a lot of people, they read a lot of books, they listen to a lot of clips, they absorb a lot of information, but it's all head knowledge. And head knowledge is great if you want to learn stuff, but if you want things to change, you have to take action on that knowledge and you have to apply it. So I really committed to applying, I committed to getting happy, I committed to doing some clearing work. And literally within, 12, 16 months, my life was completely different. So, a year and a half later, I'm living on the beach here where I live now. I ended up leaving my marriage. I met my current partner. My name is Nick. Her name is Anik. So growing up, both of our sets of parents call us Nick. When we met, we were driving the same type of car. We both do the same type of work. And after we were dating for a few months, we even realized that we had both left our marriages on the exact same day. The acquisition happened, so that gave me the freedom to step away from that world, do this work full time. Now I work with clients in over 25 countries, loving what I'm doing, having so much fun. And really the clincher where everything shifted from what I call my old reality, the old paradigm of living, to the new paradigm of living, the way I live my life now, was when I made that decision. You know what? I'm going to commit to this work and I'm going to apply it.
I love your story, and I especially love the story about your current partner, Anik, which, and the synchronicities there. You said a key thing in there, because like you just said, there's an old paradigm, there's a new paradigm. But the key thing that you said is you committed to being happy. That was the key thing for me, because I think a lot of time when people think about making changes in your life, it's about the hard work. It's about, all of that keeps people from actually doing it. But you said committing to being happy. And I think that, to me, that sticks out as being completely different than the old paradigm where you went, okay, you got to put in a lot of hard work to make a change. And then eventually, in the long run, it might pay off or not. But what you're saying is you get into this state first.
Yeah,
happy first.
I mean, people know that happiness brings alignment. I just wrapped up a 5-week group coaching program, a money mindset, or I call it Into the Bank Money Manifestation 5-week program. And in that very first call, the big point I made clear is it doesn't matter if you're after money, if you're after relationships, if you're after career, what have you. The very, 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 very first step always has to be in alignment, because alignment is what unlocks that mechanism of synchronicity, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're not in that place of alignment, if you're not in the receiving mode, then source, universe, the non-physical can't play its part, and it can't be part of that process of unfolding that's going to line the things up that are needed to allow things to show up on that path of least resistance.
I actually think you being you being someone who's been in the hot seat 9 times, that's a perfect example of getting into alignment. And then, because how many people are at the seminar and how many people actually get to be in the hot seat? I mean, that's a very small percentage, right?
Yeah, I think we calculated when we chatted the other day, it's like 1.3% or something like that. Seminars range. Boston seminar, I think, averages about 800 people. I've been on cruises, I think, with about 1,200. So, and you get maybe 10 to 15 people in the hot seat in a seminar. So it's definitely less than 2%. Yeah.
And I noticed that that's a big thing for a lot of people that visit the seminars, that they would love to be in a hot seat. And I noticed this in the comments on the channel. So is there, I mean, of course you said get into alignment, but could you quickly run us through the process of how it works for you? Because it works easily for you, and it seems to be a beautiful experience every time you're there.
Yeah. And what my biggest tip for getting in the hot seat is, and this applies to all manifestation. So manifesting a chance to sit in the hot seat is no different than manifesting anything else. And when people are in the energy of wanting to get in the hot seat at the seminars, when their hand is up, what's going through their mind is typically, pick me, I hope they pick me, please pick me, right? But when you're in the energy of pick me, you're in the energy of hope. You're in the energy of, I hope I get picked. Or in the context of manifestation, I hope the money shows up. I hope I get that job interview. There's a big difference between the energy of hoping and the energy of knowing, right? Oh, yeah. So when you're hoping, you're kind of asking the universe for something. And what people forget is the universe is you. It's literally you. So the energy you want to be in is not the energy of hoping, it's the energy of choosing. So when I put my hand up, it's, okay, it's my turn now, I'm right here, right? And energetically, that's very different than, oh, I hope you pick me, I hope you pick me, right? And the same goes with desire, right? So when a desire comes up, It's not about, oh, I hope I can get that desire. I'm like, no, I create my reality. That's mine. It's not my responsibility to make it show up. I don't know how it's going to show up. I'm not going to notice the lack of it. I'm going to feel good until it shows up, but I know that that desire is mine and it's going to get here.
Exactly. Well, it reminds me of, Wayne Dyer always said, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. And I think you just explained that perfectly, what that truly means. And of course, Abraham tells us this in so many different words. But I think it can be repeated often enough, because it seems to be a very similar thing to say, can I please have it, or I want this. And you're maybe not even realizing it, but just because you're thinking about what you want, it doesn't mean that you're in the vibration of it. And I think for me, it's always been the words that you use usually help. They help me a lot. So instead of thinking about something or of something, I think from it, and that's it puts you in the vibration. When you think from something, you have to put yourself in the vibration. And for all of you who are going to a seminar, and next time, you might want to rewind later and listen to what Nick said here, so you can be in the hot seat, because I know that it's a feeling of exhilaration when you are aligned and you see this immediate, because that's an instant manifestation. Even if you've had this wish before, now you're there, you raise your hand and it's happening. And I think that flow of energy, how long does that, or does it still give you a rush, and how long does it last? Do you feel like when you go to a seminar and you've been in a hot seat and you had that conversation, you feel that this energy goes with you when you leave?
Yeah, there's always an up-leveling. So for me, once in a while, we'll drive down to the Boston seminar, which is 8 hours away. We'll do one cruise maybe every year. And by the way, if anybody ever runs into me at a seminar, come say hi. I would say the most surprising thing about the hot seat is the first time I was in the hot seat, and a lot of people will share this experience, they've experienced the same thing, is her energy is so strong, it's very hard to stay grounded and present. So even though she's there standing in front of you talking, it's like the words go in one ear and out the other ear. I remember sitting there telling myself, listen, focus, listen. And like, it's very hard to have a back and forth engagement with her. But after that first hot seat, it's like you adapt to her energy, and the conversations feel more like conversations and they're more flowy. So that's a very interesting thing about the hot seat. I would say for me, the fun part is the engagement, is the interaction. Like when she looks at me, I already know that like I picked, just because you can feel it energetically. So just getting up there and sitting down and just having a new discussion with her every time. It's a blast. It's fun.
So do you think that, although, we all listen to the conversations, but you just said the energy is so strong, which I can totally relate to. Do you think that even when the words, you don't might not even consciously hear what they're saying or what she's saying, is it the energy that really is even more important, because it enters you directly and you allow for it to help with that shift?
I would say there's definitely a vibrational imprint. For most people, when you're in the hot seat, when you're asking a question, you're in the energy of the problem typically. And from that energy of the problem, it's very hard to be in the energy of the solution. So it's very hard to absorb and hear what she's saying. I would say that most people benefit from that hot seat experience once they get to the recording and listen to that recording, a month later, whenever that recording comes out. For me, and she's so quick in her replies. So when you ask a question, sometimes the response is so quick, so deep, it's like your conscious mind doesn't even have time to process what she just said, right? So the recordings are extremely valuable, and I get more out of the recordings than I probably do sitting in the hot seat while I'm asking the questions.
So it might even be that people that are present at the seminar and people that listen to it later, they might even benefit more from it
Totally.
than the one who's in the hot seat. I mean,
and even a year later, I'll come back to the recordings and listen to them again, and I'll get something completely different out of it than I did a year ago, right?
Isn't that interesting? It happens to me just the same way. I can listen to something that I listened 5 years ago, and I'll I'll hear a different message, which is, of course, what I need to hear right now. And
Absolutely.
and one of the things that I loved about what I read on your website is it says Breakthrough Specialist, and I love it because there's movement in this
Yeah.
description. There's already movement there. So what does it mean, and how, if you would like, how's your process? What are the most important tools that you use in your work with people?
Yeah. So for me, I'm not a fan of the word coach, because to me, coach means I tell you what to do and you go do it. A big part of what I do is I audit what's in somebody's attraction point using some processes. So we know exactly what you've got going on and what you need to shift to eliminate the resistance, because that's the name of the game, is eliminating the resistance. The analogy that Abraham-Hicks often uses is the cork floating at the surface, right? Your cork should float up here. This is alignment, this is joy, this is your natural state, this is when we're born, and this is where we're supposed to be. But instead of being up here, everybody's kind of down here and bouncing around with their emotions, right? There's things, resistance, anchoring your cork down. And what I see when I look at a lot of the law of attraction community is people are efforting into alignment. They're needing to do morning practices, focus wheels, affirmations. Every morning or every day, they're needing to do things to work their way back up into alignment. So essentially what people are doing is their cork's not floating, they're doing practices, and then they're literally pushing the cork back up to the surface, and then they're holding it there, right? But what happens is that cork,
Exhausting.
it is exhausting, and the things that are pulling the cork down are still there, right? So the effect that that has is most people are bouncing in and out of alignment like this instead of being consistently in alignment. And that's the difference between being somebody who manifests angel numbers and parking spots and green lights and a lot of the cute things, but not the bigger stuff. So for most people, if you want to manifest the bigger stuff, you need more of that vibrational consistency up here. And that's what's missing. So the process that I use is about saying, okay, what do you have going on that's preventing that cork from floating? What is it that we need to release and let go of? Or what perspectives need to be shifted to get you up here easily and effortlessly? And once you're up here easily and effortlessly, that's when you're really in alignment. That's when that mechanism of synchronicity really kicks in. And that's when things get really magical.
Well, and I mean, you have your own life and your own manifestations in life to show how this shift, how it takes effect, and how beautiful life is really not just can be, but it's supposed to be. Because I think
That's what
excuse me.
That's what inspires me the most about this work is I've done it for me, right? And I've done it for a lot of my clients. And I know what's possible. And I know how magical life really is and is supposed to be. But there's so many people who aren't there, and there's so many people who are in struggle. And there's so many people who feel stuck in relationships and finances, and it's unnecessary, right? And one of the key things that I tell people is most people have this perspective in terms of law of attraction. It's all about, how do I get this? How do I get that? How do I get this? How do I manifest the money, the relationship? They're focused on specific desires. And what I tell people is shift out of that paradigm and look at law of attraction as a lifestyle. Look at it as a state of being. Focus on alignment. Focus on unlocking that mechanism of synchronicity. And from that place, from that vantage point, all the other things are going to begin to show up.
When you just said that, I realized I in my mind, I saw a lot of the comments that I see underneath the videos that we post and other Abraham-Hicks videos, and even in the communities on Facebook and whatnot. And I see that I just clearly had this come in. A lot of the people that are doing this work and committing to it, they get to the point where their lives are changing, but they're questioning the house. So for example, a lot of what I see is people saying, this feels so good to me, but my spouse, but my family, they don't align with it, or I have to fight this negativity here every day. And do you think that when you are doing the work, that these are logical, that you become aware of your surroundings more, and it's becoming more clear. And also, what do you tell your clients when they say, well, I feel so good, but my partner or keeps getting, it feels like a family can get in the way, or your boss can get in the way. What is your answer to that? Because I feel that's something that people struggle with.
Yeah, so there's a few things you can address there. So one, the more your vibration raises, the more sensitive you become to lower vibrations. And that's not a bad thing, right? So for example, if somebody's vibration is here and you're here, well, because your vibrations are very similar, then there's not a lot of discomfort. But if you do a whole bunch of inner work and you're used to being really happy and your vibration's up here now and this is a miserable person, then there's a bigger gap. So being around that person is going to create more discomfort, potentially, right? Depends on how solidly you can hold your alignment and the perspectives that you hold. So now when somebody else in your life is a source of wobble, is that a good term to use? So when somebody else in your life is a source of wobble, you have a decision to make. So the big realization you need to make is they're not pulling you down. You're allowing yourself to drop based on their behavior.
That's really important, yeah.
So what is it about their behavior that's putting my perspectives in a place that's allowing me to drop? If that person in my life is an angry person and that's the wobble that creates for me, well, that person can choose to be angry. They can choose to be an angry person. That's their choice, and there's nothing wrong with that choice if that choice suits them. Once you understand that, then you have a choice. You have the choice to deal with the perspectives you hold that create the wobble around their anger. But if they're attacking you, then it's about looking at your vibration and saying, okay, what do I have going on in my vibration that's attracting this circumstance? Do I have issues around fears of speaking up? So again, there's a lot of different dynamics involved. Everybody's unique. Everybody's got a different fingerprint. Everybody's got a different vibrational set point. Everybody's got different things on their attraction point. And that's why the audit process that I do with clients is so important, because that's what really helps me identify, okay, so this person's a source of wobble, but the person's not the problem. It's what's in your vibration that we need to look at and resolve in order for that circumstance to change in a positive way, or to stop it from triggering you in the first place.
And I feel when you do that, when you do this work, that more often than not, either the conversation will shift and that person will not appear to you in that way anymore, or they will maybe even leave your life, or, but I feel like when you do the work, like you say, of alignment and of figuring out what that vibration inside of you was or is, or and deactivate it or shift, that instead of you having to figure out how to resolve the situation, it usually resolves itself, which goes back to the very beginning of the conversation of you have clear focus, you have clear intention, and you get into the state of alignment. And then, like you said before, it's not for you, it's not for us to figure out the exact mechanism, and we couldn't possibly, with the trillions of things that are falling into place.
Yeah,
I think what you just said is a really good thing, because it also means is chill out a little bit. You don't have to figure out how all this is going to play out. Figure out what your state of alignment is, and then allow for this to unfold as it's going to naturally.
The big question to ask is, am I approaching this from an effort and an action standpoint, or am I approaching this from a vibrational standpoint, right? And most people's default is action and effort. And when you take that action and effort approach, well, you're back in the energy of the problem where you can't let that solution in, right? So the very first thing to ask in the face of contrast is, what action do I need to take? Understanding that it's vibrational. Vibrational meaning, what am I doing in my vibration inside of me that's attracting this? What do I need to shift? And what do I need to get out of to allow that circumstance to fade away into the background and resolve itself?
So truly, there are kind of, I think for most people, there are long-term things that desires that they have and things that they want in their lives. And then there are kind of sometimes emergency situations where you are, whatever, your car breaks down and you need to get somewhere really, the things that we experience in life. So what you're saying is when you're in a situation like that, where you feel this old paradigm energy coming to you is, oh my God, I need to take action. I need, saying what the only thing that you should, or it would be good to do is find alignment, go into the state where you even just calm down for a moment so you can actually get some inspired thoughts that will trigger in turn inspired action if it's necessary. Or there might someone come your way that has exactly what you need at that moment, right?
Exactly.
But that
Exactly.
only happens when you are in that state. It doesn't happen when you go into emergency, oh my God, modus.
Alignment is where you're in your power. And that's why Abraham-Hicks says, get into alignment and then, get into alignment and then, get into alignment and then, right? And the mistake people make is people are chasing after stuff, and the lack of the stuff is pulling them back out of alignment, right? So take some time off from chasing after stuff, even though there might be fears around finances, even there might be fears around health. Take a break from chasing after circumstance and just spend 2 weeks, spend 4 weeks chasing after alignment, playing the F it happy game. You know, there's some techniques that I teach and use, and it's in the free Ecourse. But again,
Well,
take
tell
a
us
break.
about that. Well, what's your free e-course? Because you've been giving us some tools now and some really good insight now. And I'm getting more interested, and I'm sure the viewers are too. So what is your course about, and how do people, if they would like to learn more of, about the application, because we listen to Abraham-Hicks, and there's a lot of practical work, but at the same time, there's so many other tools
Yeah.
that people develop, and you have developed. So how can people get in touch with you, and what's that free e-course about?
So it's like I said at the beginning of the call, everything shifted for me when I started to apply, right? So my focus has always been on the practical application, because from a theoretical standpoint, law of attraction is very simple, right? But when you go to a law of attraction seminar, you meet a lot of people, you look at these giant Facebook groups, still it's a very, very small percentage of people that are manifesting at high levels. So my focus has always been, how do you get the big stuff? How do you get practical? How do you get the stuff working? So that's what the e-course is about, is getting practical. What's interesting is I was doing a client call with a client 6 weeks ago, and the inspiration that came to was to tell her to do an e-course. And then after we got off the call, I was thinking, maybe I should do an e-course. So I literally put the e-course together. It took me like 6 hours. I just took a bunch of my resources and I plugged it all together. I wasn't sure if I was going to charge or was going to make it free. I made it free. There was over 1,000 students signed up in the first 3.5 weeks. People keep messaging me, they keep loving it. Since that's launched, I'm also working on a book, which hopefully will be out in September, October, based on the e-course inspiration. And I've also launched something called The Collective.
And on that topic, just before you explain The Collective, which I love, is you have 2 books out already, right, that are available on Amazon and on all the other good platforms.
Yeah, one is called The Power of Joy, and that was my first kind of real law of attraction book. The other one is called Single No More, which is Kindle only. And Single No More is specific to relationships, relationship patterns, identifying your sources of resistance. So for example, with relationships, you always want to look at 2 things. You want to look at split energy, and you want to look at emotions. Emotions define what you attract in a partner and the circumstances you find yourself in with the partner. Split energy creates either self-sabotaging behavior, or it's like it puts up like an energetic wall where you won't attract partners at all. In this e-course, I've got a relationship breakthrough webinar replay video that people absolutely love. It takes you through a process to identify relationship resistance. So that's an e-course for anybody who's looking for some relationship help.
Well, what we're going to do for sure is, you mentioned that free e-course that you have. So that link's in the description below the video. And we'll put, of course, the links to your books up there as well. I didn't get a chance, because we just met, to read them yet. But I read some of the reviews on Amazon, and people are loving Nick's books. So please go check them out too. And then there's something that you told me about that I felt was really exciting, because it was a little bit of felt like a new concept. You were taking something from the real world into the digital world, and it appears to be a big hit. And tell us about The Collective, which I'm excited about.
The Collective is interesting because there's different sources of inspiration for it. So A, for the e-course, people have been finishing the e-course and they've been asking for more. So
Of
that was
course.
one of the sources. The other was I had just finished that 5-week money group coaching program, and there was 50 people in that and they were asking for more group coaching. So that was the second inspiration. And then the third is that my favorite part about going to Abraham-Hicks cruises and going to Abraham-Hicks events are the people. So it's great to, get in the hot seat and listen to the seminar, but really the best part of Abraham-Hicks is the community of leading edge people, of high vibe people. And that's what really helps level things up, is being with those high vibe people who share this common interest of pushing the boundaries of what's possible, of being in alignment. So the three of those are kind of what amalgamated into what I call the collective. And what the collective is a group coaching call every second week. It'll eventually be weekly as the collective grows, but right now it's every second week. We hop on a live call. There's 2 calls. There's a European time zone call, and there's a North America time zone call. And the topic, the unfolding of those calls is very much like an Abraham-Hicks seminar. So what I'll do is I'll talk about whatever topic seems to be at the surface for a lot of my clients. Oftentimes I'll see themes that a lot of people are dealing with at the same time. So we'll talk about a theme.
Another law of attraction thing, right? Because people usually gather with a lot of similar energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like an Abraham-Hicks seminar where, when one person asks a question and that question applies to a whole bunch of people in the audience too and in the group. So it's bi-weekly live calls. The calls last like 90 minutes. And this does 2 things. So one, it keeps the topic of alignment and law of attraction at the forefront. Because what I've noticed is even with clients, 7 or 8 months after we finish working together, they go back to life and they get caught up in what they've got going on, and the priority of alignment kind of falls to the wayside a little bit. So this keeps alignment at the forefront. It keeps it in focus. It gives a Facebook group and these live calls somewheres to go to stay engaged with law of attraction in this community, in this collective, to keep alignment a priority. Plus it gives somewhere for people to go with when they do hit a road bump or they get stuck or they're not sure how to approach a circumstance. It's like a support network as well.
Well, and what I love about it is you told me earlier that it's very simple to join too. So it's like a call like we're doing right now, with the only difference that there's going to be a lot more of those little windows here with a lot more people, and people have the opportunity to ask a question, and it's a back and forth conversation. And I love the concept because it's truly then a digital community.
Absolutely. We're literally working together. My goal is to literally build the world's most aligned community.
I love that goal, and I'm totally in support of it. So I'm putting my energy into this beautiful vision, because I think, life brings people together naturally because of their vibration. And it's the reason why we started. I'm like you. You said you came from a different background. You were in tech, and I'm an artist and songwriter, and I love what I do. And for me, just like you, to inspire people is truly, it's my purpose in this life. And having, started this channel on YouTube is just about that. It's truly about inspiration. And I love the concept of the collective. And, for everyone who feels aligned to do it, there's a link here in the description as well below the video to join Nick's collective. And I think it's an exciting time because technology gives us this opportunity now. And I have a question for you, because you come from a tech background and you are also, obviously a law of attraction. You don't like the word coach, but breakthrough specialist, and you work with people. And that's something that's come up. Is I was wondering, with the advancement in technology when it comes to algorithms, especially on platforms like YouTube, I wonder, isn't it interesting to see how people might say, yeah, the algorithm suggests a video, right? And it's based on a lot of factors. And it's even called artificial intelligence. But do you think, and that's my personal belief, that it is still the vibration, the energy of the universe that suggests that video through whatever tools it has at hand. Because just like Instagram and how we found each other. So do you think that technology is just another tool that the universe uses for
Yeah,
that purpose?
yeah, I think everything is synchronicity, right? So if a video finds you, an Instagram account finds you, the big thing is when something shows up or you have an inspiration, and that's where the alignment comes in, is to follow that inspiration, even if it doesn't make sense, right? One of the chapters in my book, I talk about,
Especially when it doesn't make sense, usually that's when.
yeah, one of the things that prevents law of attraction success is rationality. Because if you're walking down the street and you get this nudge to go into a specific coffee shop, maybe there's somebody in there that you're supposed to meet. But the rational mind kicks in and goes, you don't have time to go in there. You need to go back to the office and you need to make phone calls and you need to sign up more clients. But that guy in the coffee shop might be a marketing guy that can give you exactly what you need. So the rationality of, oh, I got to go do this overrides those impulses.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And that's how you and I, or Christine, you and I, man, she couldn't be here today. But in closing, so when people, I hope people go, because I really enjoyed, I've had 2 conversations with Nick, and I love the energy, and I love the clarity, and I love the concept. So please go and sign up, and go and do that free e-course. People are loving it, and also the collective. I'm going to be on the collective too, because I love the idea of it. But these are things that are going to happen in the near future. What do you give when you're at a seminar, when you're in a coffee shop, and someone is attracted to talk to you, and they're in a tight spot? What is your number one tool that you use to shift in the moment? Because I feel sometimes that's all we need, is to have that tool to help us shift in that moment. We know where we're going. We just need that shift in the moment when something doesn't work out or feels really low. So what is your number one tool?
I would say I wouldn't refer to a specific tool, but I would refer to a specific piece of awareness that I think helps a lot of my clients. And that's that everything that we experience, even contrast, serves a purpose. So any moment I find myself in, if my inner being, if non-physical energy has the ability to do or create anything, if this is the circumstance that I find myself in, regardless of what can be created, there's got to be purpose behind it. And knowing the purpose behind, just knowing that there's a purpose behind anything, including that contrast, brings a sense of relief.
It does.
For me and a lot of people that I talk to.
It absolutely does. I can confirm that for me, and even you just speaking about it now, makes me realize it's just that shift in, hey, don't put this off as something that shouldn't happen. Just accept that it is part of of your unfolding natural and how it's supposed to be in this moment. And
Yeah.
And the shift, I think that's where the shift already happens.
People beat themselves up when they experience contrast. Contrast is not a sign that you screwed up. Contrast is a natural part of the evolution of the human process. When contrast appears, the mistake people are making is they're pushing against it. And by pushing against it, you're keeping yourself in it a whole lot longer than you're supposed to or that you need to, right? So again, don't beat yourself up about contrast. Contrast is okay. You're never going to get to a place where your alignment is so steady that life becomes a Disneyland fairy tale. That's not what it's about. But from that place, the contrast isn't going to wobble you as much. It's not going to pull you down. You're not going to get stuck in it for months or years. You're going to flow through it so much easier. So again, that's just another one of my tips is be okay with contrast. Don't beat yourself up about it, because everybody experiences it, including me, including Esther. It's part of being human, and that's okay.
Nick Breau, everyone, I love the energy, I love the clarity, and I love to see, and I'm sure you all are going to agree with me, to see that all the teachings that we've heard for so many years are, are being applied in real life. And you're such a wonderful example of shifts that happen, of lives that turn into exactly what people want them to be. And I think it's a testament to those teachings that we're now hearing through Abraham, but that have been around for thousands, for as long as the planet and people have been around. And I really want to thank you for taking the time today to speak with us. And you all please look at the links in the description, Nick Breau. I'm so excited that we met, and I hope we're going to do things together again in the near future.
Yeah, this was fun. I'd love to do more of these, even if we did a Q&A one where people could submit questions and we could just answer questions or something like that. I think would be fun.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you have questions, of course you have the opportunity to contact Nick directly, but if you want us to do another Q&A, leave your questions in the comments and we'll keep this conversation going. And for those of you who want to be in the hot seat, you heard it's easy. The answer is always it's easy, and Nick told us how he does it, and I'm sure you can do it as well. So thanks again, Nick, and thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful, inspired, and beautiful and blessed rest of your days.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.